Shove it, man!
The Hawk isn't usually one for fantasy booking, but I'm always open to trying new things. That's what I tell your girlfriend anyway. Now, the Hawk recently made a statement that I want to save Impact Wrestling. Don't get me wrong, the in-ring product is usually good if you go for that sort of thing, but AEW already do that sort of thing better. Ever since I've made these videos, I've said TNA has struggled with an identity crisis. They went through phases of being WCW, ECW, WWE Light, and now they're AEW Light, or you could argue they're ROH Light. And Impact will always be TNA to me, and despite what I say, it's still my show and I want it to succeed. To do that, the product desperately needs to change. I want to create an identity for it and try and establish a brand of wrestling that no one else is doing. And yes, I respect that they're still alive and props to management for saving them and all of that, but come on, they could do better. The Hawk is going to be realistic with his fantasy booking, so I know they don't have a big budget to use, and will largely need to make do with their current roster, plus a few realistic additions. So the best place to start is with their current roster, and what a depressing page this is to look at. It used to be star-studded, now it's a bunch of geeks who belong in the mud. In fact, half of these people have left the company anyway, so they need to update their roster page or I'll smack them one. Let's free up some funds and make some cuts, because we will want to bring in some better wrestlers for sure. Aiden Prince. I literally have no idea who that is. He looks like a cheap version of Samuel Shaw, so he can go. Cody Deaner can go because your girl's a screamer. Giselle Shaw. I think she's gone anyway. Johnny Bravo is dead. Lazy Frost is gone. No idea who this Matthew guy is, but we don't want any more bald guys with beards. We're trying to be different here. Tasha Steeles can go. I've seen enough Impact and I still have no idea what the company's seeing her. Every single other woman on the roster is better. It's the Madison Rain effect all over again. She's far too small to be taken seriously anyway. That's about all we're going to cut. We can probably find a use for most of the other people. Okay, we seriously need some new additions. Budget is a major issue here. We can't poach any wrestlers from the WWE or AEW because we can't afford them. So let's check the recent releases. Okay, for the X Division, I'm going to surprise a few people here and hire Andrew Everett. I used to think he was terrible, but his work on the indies has been excellent, and we want to beef up our X Division. We do need a standout star though. This would be our most expensive acquisition, but you need to spend money to make money. Vikingo from AAA makes the girls spray. He has visa issues, so Impact will need to sponsor him and sign him to a full-time contract on good wages. Get in there before someone else does. The other company's been sniffing around him for a while now. We could also look at Matt Cross, although he is bald and has a beard, but that aside, he would be a great fit. Let's give the 8-year-old obese Indian boy Barood a shot at the big time. He'll probably work for free. You just need to pay for his visa. The final X Division signing I want is Jeff Hardy's stoner friend Shannon Moore for some name recognition and because he's Jeff Hardy's stoner friend. We're also going to need to beef up the tag division, which is a complete mess. First guy I'm going to make a play for is Santana, who is possibly leaving AEW, so hopefully that one comes off for us. He has history in TNA and is an excellent fit in the tag division. Slice Boogie has left MLW since February, and I see a lot in this guy. He has height and promo ability, and we can put these two guys together, both due to their LAX association. Believe it or not, we're going to sign Garrett Bischoff and Wes Briscoe. You'll see why later. We don't have a lot of money, so we'll call it a day for now, as we need some more guys in other divisions. The Knockout division needs the least attention, as it's already their best division. We just need to add some sex appeal, and I'll be happy with it. So Scarlett Bordeaux comes in. Never understood how she hasn't been a bigger star. Santana Garrett, because I've always wanted to see her get a prolonged shot on TV. See if Taryn Terrell is available too. I know she's with NWA, but is she contracted? And finally, you all know I'm going to sign my girl Rachel Rose, the future of women's wrestling, sex appeal, wrestling skill and promo ability. She is a future star who will be cheap right now. Get her before somebody else does. I'm being deadly serious, Impact. If anyone official is watching this, you can take this whole video as a joke, but you do need to sign her today. Just the main event scene, and what a mess this is. There's barely anyone credible on the current roster who we can use in the main event. But budget is a real issue here. These guys are not cheap. There's quite a few main eventers and heavyweights who are free agents. I can't see any of the Control Your Narrative crew coming over because they're all engulfed in their own project and won't want to come. It's a shame because we could have done with Strowman and EC3. Idiots. They could be massive, but instead they want to do their little dogfighting club. We will most likely have to bring in Karrion Kross if we want Scarlett Bordeaux. I'm fine with that. He could be a good guy to fight the babyfaces. Congo Kong's coming in because we need a fat guy for diversity. Mike Knox, you will see why later. Scott Steiner for character reasons. Buddy Ray, who seems like he might be done with wrestling, but he hasn't officially retired. Offer him a decent wage for minimal dates and we might get him with a promise of one more title run. Shane Mercer from GCW. He has a good look and would be cheap, so sign him up for the future. Unfortunately, Jacob Fatu from MLW is not an option. He's contracted there until 2025. For the same reason we cannot poach Alex Hammerstone. But we really need one guy we can build the company around. And that man will be the master of the worm, Scotty Too Hotty. I'm kidding, it's the cowboy James Storm. This guy is an Impact original, he's still in great shape, and he's wrestling in OVW against Mahabali Shira. Get him in the doors now, what the hell are you doing? It's a no-brainer. A couple of people I'd like to poach from MLW would be Gangrel, not to wrestle but to be a character, similar earlier to the suggestion about Scott Steiner. Enzo Amore, let's give him one more shot, the dude was a missed opportunity whether you like it or not. We can make good use of him. They don't have exclusive deals these two, so let's get them. That's our roster sorted, now for the elephant in the room. It's out with the Impact to bring it in with the TNA. Most fans still call it TNA, that's their identity. The name Impact Wrestling sucks and it's gone. Embrace the past because it's sure better than what you're doing now. For this relaunch, we won't be stripping the titles like Russo did, but we will have all the gold defended on the first show. We're going to hype the hell out of this show online and create a buzz. Let's take the current Honor No More faction, the ROH guys, and deal with them straight away. So these 5 guys are going to all get beaten down in a bar. We use the bar because we want our wrestlers to come across as cool people who have a life outside of wrestling. Imagine that. They will be destroyed by a group of people who have hoodies and masks on. We want this to be a chaotic, realistic looking brawl. It ends with Eddie Edwards, the last man standing, trying to fight back valiantly before he's smashed in the head with a beer bottle. As the scene ends, you can hear ambulances rushing to the scene, but also motorbikes revving up at the same time. The following day, you can have a serious news update with Josh Matthews. He's going to address the attack and confirm that all of the Honor No More people have serious injuries and may not be back in TNA for a while. The Impact roster are worried by the severity of the attacks, and Matthews advises that all wrestlers should be watching their backs and being careful. He also reveals in other news that there's been a recent change of ownership and the show will return with a special event with all the gold on the line. For our first show, we start out by meeting our new TNA General Manager, Sami Callihan. He also has a bodyguard, an official TNA enforcer, Scott Steiner. Callahan's been out injured for a while, but he was approached by the TNA owners whilst he was recovering. They appreciated his loyalty to the company, and at the same time they want Callahan to take the company in a new direction as he's a creative guy. This can have a shoot element to it as well, as Sami runs down what's been happening in Impact for the last few years. He could talk about how the company's gone from something to nothing whilst he's been there. He announces that it's now officially TNA again. He isn't scared of the recent gang attacks in the bar because he's made some new TNA signings who have spent some time in bars themselves. Out walks Jeff Hardy's stoner friend, Enzo Amore, and in the middle is the cowboy James Storm. Straight away this hypes the crowd and shows that we aren't doing a Dixie Carter disappointment announcement. Amore gets to cut a promo, but the main focus here will be James Storm. He is the main eventer. He threatens Josh Alexander, who currently holds the heavyweight belt. He talks about being a TNA original and says that if anyone wants a bar brawl to come and find him. There will be a heavyweight title match tonight which features a mystery man. In a car park, Maria Kanellis is panicking about her husband and the ROH guys being sent to hospital. She is scared for her life, so she went and found Congo Kong, who used to be associated with her. He will protect her. She's got a match later tonight for the Knockouts title. Scott Steiner talks about being back in Impact Wrestling and threatens anyone who's looking to cause trouble. We open with a 5-way X Division elimination match. Going forward, we're going to be rebuilding the division and making it an important part of the show. But we only have one X Division match per show, as we don't want to oversaturate. Cruiserweight wrestling is great, but only if you keep it to one match per show. The current champion is Mike Bailey, who's pretty good to be fair. We can throw whoever we want in this match, but we need to make sure we have Shannon Moore in there. We also put Vikingo in this match. The commentary team will hype him up as the future and go nuts for his crazy moves. Shannon Moore will win the match against the odds by cheating, and he's the new champion, but Vikingo looks strong. The next match will be the Good Brothers defending their tag titles against the Briscoe Brothers. They have a good match and the Good Brothers retain. Backstage, they celebrate with the rest of the Bullet Club. They have beers and they get Santana Garrett and Plain Jane, I've forgotten her name, to join them. They aren't the focus right now, we just need them to have some ladies with them to try and recover some of their coolness. The Good Brothers really are going to be a rebuilding mission. Talking of the ladies, the Knockouts will have their match now. Jordan Grace will defend her belt against Maria Kanellis, who's with Congo Kong. This is a total squash match, Maria doesn't have a chance. Congo Kong tries to interfere, which distracts the ref, and suddenly 2 girls rush the ring. This is going to be Scarlett Bordeaux and Rachel Rose. They do some kind of wacky double team move to kill Jordan Grace, and Maria wins the Knockouts title. This will piss a lot of people off, but it's necessary. She will reveal that Kongo Kong wasn't the only backup she got and proclaims that they're going to be a group which dominates Impact. They are Beauties and the Beast. Grace is livid about her title loss and calls Maria out on being a bad wrestler who only won because she had help. We need to keep Grace looking strong here. The Motor City Machine Guns are interviewed about how they feel about the recent changes in TNA. They're happy because it's what they were originally familiar with. We need to give these guys a bit more freedom on the mic because they used to be really funny, but they're sad now. They make fun of the ROH guys going to hospital and say good riddance, don't let the door hit you on the way out. The promo is interrupted by a brick coming through a nearby window and Scott Steiner screaming and holding a door as some people try to break into the arena. Steiner is screaming that whatever this is, it ends tonight. And Steiner takes the Motor City Machine Guns and some TNA jobbers into the car park to fight the intruders. The TNA guys all have weapons to make them look more serious. They walk around the arena but can't find anyone. They do notice on their return that the arena door has a handprint on it and someone has sneaked in whilst they were away. Steiner can flip out and have an argument with the Machine Guns about this, whatever, it'll make funny TV. Just the main event for the TNA Heavyweight title, Sami Callihan announces that it'll be a no DQ hardcore match because that's how he rolls. Josh Alexander defending against James Storm, Moose and a mystery opponent who will be Karrion Kross. We aren't going to put him with Scarlett because it's not really a pairing that serves a purpose in my eyes. The match needs to be good and long. During the match, Steiner leads the Guns and the other TNA wrestlers to surround the ringside as they're concerned about whoever sneaked into the building. Everyone is looking over their shoulders. Ultimately, nothing happens and Josh Alexander retains his belt. Have James Storm come close to winning a number of times. The show goes off the air with Jordynne Grace being found backstage knocked out with a glass bottle. Maria and her crew are screaming that it wasn't them as they're confronted. Now doesn't that feel more exciting than anything TNA has done in recent years? We're focusing on giving everyone a chance to speak, making the wrestlers look less like geeks, making sure our stars have a prominent spot on the show, and the fans will be buzzing about whatever these attacks are leading to. The second show would start with an announcement that the arena is on lockdown and police want to question the wrestlers about the attack. Steiner's screaming at the cops, Enzo Amore's making fun of the cops, and Callihan's advising that he doesn't need the cops because he can deal with this himself. We have our usual X Division opener with Shannon Moore beating someone through some slight cheating. Ultimately, we're just trying to build up to him facing Vikingo for the belt. Maria and her crew are questioned backstage. They flirt with the police and make them lose focus on their investigation. Ultimately, they end up arresting Kongo Kong for the attack on Jordynne Grace. The girls are not concerned, they're more concerned with losing their heavy than his well-being. Rachel Rose asks a cop for his number and then when they leave, she says he's ugly, I wouldn't have a date with a loser like that. We're trying to establish that she's a bitch. Sami Callihan interrogates some of the roster about the attacks, but ultimately he isn't getting any answers. No one's allowed in or out of the arena. Gangrel is turned away at the door. You can have Enzo Amore win the mid-card belt, the digital media title. We aren't pushing him into the main event, but we want him to have a reason to get plenty of airtime to cut promos on people. Callihan out to cut a promo and he says that he agrees with the police and he blames Kongo Kong for being involved in recent attacks. When he's out of jail, he will suffer for what he's done. We're trying to build up to a Monsters Ball match between Callihan and Kong here. Interview of Eddie Edwards in hospital saying he has no idea who attacked him, but he'll be back. Alright Arnie, we're going to fire most of the ROH faction, but Eddie Edwards can stay. But if he decides to stay, he can have a surfer gimmick. And if he doesn't like that, he can sell his ass out the company. Surf's up, dude. We can even make a surfer faction. Eddie, Surfing and Turfing Edwards. The most professional surfer, Brian Myers, and Rhino because he's fat. They could come out to surfing music and carry bodyboards to add comedy effect. I mainly see them in the lower card. We carry on for the next couple of weeks with random attacks happening and nobody being none the wiser. Kongo Kong is given an alibi as he's in jail whilst the attacks are taking place. He's still mad when he returns and blames Callihan for his incarceration. Jordynne Grace is still mad at the Beauties. They did cheat to take her title, even if they didn't attack her backstage. We're going to use this group to pull the ratings in. They will be heavily pushed, with Rachel Rose slowly being built up as the best wrestler of the three. Maria as the main mouthpiece and Scarlett as the sex symbol. But all three of these girls can handle themselves on the mic. You could switch Ter and Terrell in for one of them if you needed to. If you could get all of them, have Ter and Terrell be the face ultimately. Over a long period, Rachel Rose will be built up to take the belt from Maria, but not for a while because she's still slightly green. They don't wrestle that much because we want to keep people happy who want some wrestling quality to the show. So people like Diana Peraza and Mia Yim will have great matches still. Enzo Amore will rebrand the title as a sort of hardcore belt. I think he'd flourish in this role and it covers for his lack of wrestling ability. Moose will be hovering around the main event scene as a sort of loner character who doesn't care about the attacks, is just looking out for himself. We're going to spend some time building up the new LAX. I want them to be violent and people to be scared of them. They could try and convince the Knockouts to join OnlyFans or something. Imagine Sliced Boogie and Scarlet Bordeaux. Him trying to convince her to join, but then Congo Kong takes exception to it or something. That would be ratings right there. Gangrel will ultimately join up with the Decay and try to get them back to how they used to be, when they were good. The tag title would just kind of trundle along as usual, the only addition being that the Good Brothers seem to be friendly of James Storm. We can have lots of drinking related skits and fun with this. The Machine Guns have been on a winning run themselves and they're acting cocky towards the rest of the roster. A big storyline coming up. Josh Alexander will be mugged, beaten and driven out to a desert and left, which will obviously be a big story in Impact. There's been so many attacks and nobody seems to have seen or know anything about them. No wrestlers have invaded the ring and it all just seems a bit shady. Alexander will go missing for the next 2 weeks. He's supposed to have a match with James Storm, a face versus face match at the pay-per-view, with the stipulation being that if he can't make the main event, he'll be stripped of his title, and Storm will be the new champion. The management aren't aware that he's been kidnapped, he's just sort of disappeared from what they've heard. As we arrive at Bound for Glory, we would have a card that looks something like this. X Division title ladder match, Vikingo challenging Jeff Hardy's Stoner friend. Tag match, Surfing and Turfing versus the new LAX. Singles match, number 1 contendership for the heavyweight title, Moose versus Eric Young. X Division number 1 contender 6-way elimination. Andrew Everett versus Baroud versus Matt Cross versus Ace Austin versus Mike Bailey versus Laredo Kid. The hardcore belt, Enzo Amore versus Mid Cardona. Monsters Ball, Sami Callihan versus Congo Kong. Women's title, Maria versus Jordan Grace. World title, James Storm versus Josh Alexander. This card is about establishing the new brand. Out with the geeks and in with the cool. I haven't spoke about Moose at all in this really, but I do want to keep him in the main event. He's going to be a big part of the show once the main event story is wound up. We'd have a great show, but all the intrigue would be centred around the main event. Is Josh Alexander going to show? Is Storm going to finally fulfill his destiny and get to be the man to carry the company in the main belt? D'Lo Brown will be on commentary, which he is sometimes, so it's not that unusual. After Storm cuts his pre-match promo, there'll be another attack backstage. It doesn't matter who it is. D'Lo will leave the commentary desk to go and check on them, and whilst he's away, he'll also be doing something else. Storm is waiting in the ring and is about to be declared the world champion. At the last second, Josh Alexander appears. He looks like crap. He has a mic and he brings a video up on the Titantron. It reveals that his attacker was none other than James Storm and the Aces and Eights. Callahan is about to fire James Storm, but Alexander begs for the match to take place so he can get his revenge. The TNA roster spill out because they all want to get a piece of James Storm. The Aces and Eights spill out for the first time since this storyline started and they all have a massive battle. D'Lo Brown has let them back in the building and returned for a spot back in the Aces and Eights after they fired him. It's going to be Wes Briscoe, Garrett Bischoff, Nux, the Good Brothers who were also playing everyone all along. You could also throw someone others in the group who would be good fits like Madman Fulton. The point is that they need to win this battle. We've got a brutal match going on during this huge war. The commentary put over how this could be the death of TNA if Storm wins, and he ends up winning. And it's important that this is a clean match with no screwy finishes. In the Hawks TNA, we might have wacky storylines and stuff, but the matches, I want mostly clean finishes. Everyone is fighting around the ring, but they aren't interested in the match. James Storm wins the belt and proclaims that TNA is done. Now the belt rides with the Aces and Eights. The police storm the arena with smoke grenades, and the Aces and Eights are arrested with everyone at a loss what's going to happen with TNA now. Can you imagine the online buzz? Everyone would want to catch the next show. In the following week, Sami Callihan slips into a depression and feels guilty for the attacks and blames himself for letting it happen. Moose is frustrated because it's his turn to have the world title, but it can't be done right now. The Aces and Eights are off TV with only a few special clips of them out on bail at strip clubs. They've been bailed out by someone. That could end up being Bully Ray if we've managed to sign him. The TNA roster, who have all been beaten up by the Aces and Eights, want revenge and they pressure Sami Callihan to let them come back into the show. As Sami is not in his right frame of mind, he agrees a one-night deal. If the Aces and Eights lose, they must relinquish the world title and leave for good. If they win, they can have TNA contracts and the lawsuits will be dropped. Because that sort of thing happens in wrestling all of the time, right? Aces and Eights would win and TNA would become a gloomy place for the TNA roster, with Aces and Eights essentially using Sami like a puppet to do their bidding. Random attacks would be common and the roster would mostly be in fear. The Aces and Eights would book what they wanted on the card for their amusement, so hot women and hardcore matches could be commonplace. Enzo Amore and the Guns would provide some comedy to the show. Moose wouldn't be scared of the Aces and Eights and he'd be playing a sort of Sting anti-hero role, not siding with anyone. Down the line you could have Bully Ray feuding with Storm for the belt, or insert Moose here. You could also build up Karrion Kross as a sort of saviour or a returning Josh Alexander. The options are endless. Either way, the main event scene is better than it currently is, but one thing's for certain, Eddie Slapnut Edwards would be getting nowhere near that belt ever again. Well, let's be fair, if he can get his new surfing gimmick over, we might let him have a run with the X Division belt. The reason I centred this booking around the Aces and Eights is for a few reasons. Continuity is important to TNA fans. They know what the Aces and Eights is and understand the story and the characters. Despite what we all think of the storyline, just look at the YouTube views. When TNA originally wanted to bring the group back, they got huge views. Most of the guys from the Aces and Eights are free and available. Wes, Garrett and D'Lo did do the gimmick very recently too in TNA, so it makes sense. I wouldn't flog this storyline to death like TNA did. It's merely a point to establish that TNA is going back to its roots and we need something big to get the fans back. Ultimately, we would be building up new stars, but we've got to see Storm have one more proper title reign, and let's be honest, he deserves that. I always thought James Storm would have been a cool fit in the Aces and Eights in the first place. So that's my Hawk booking. Not sure if people will even enjoy this video, but I thought it'd be interesting to see if we had a way to make TNA popular again. And if you don't like this video, who cares, it's the end.